You know what it is? It's Friday Eve. But for this man to my right, Stephen A. Smith, it is just Thursday. Max Kellerman, this is First Take.
What's up?
Friday Eve is,
What's going on?
A great
Hello.
contribution to humanity.
We're into it. I try. I finally contributed to the show.
You say Friday Eve. I don't know why you be talking about that. That sounds to me like somebody that's accustomed to having weekends off, which ain't me. So there is no Friday Eve.
I'm never off either, sweetheart.
All right, well, then why you keep bringing up Friday Eve?
Hit you
for what?
Sweetheart.
You still, because I don't have to wake up as early. I'll give it to you that, okay? And you don't either.
That's not true.
Oh,
that's not true.
Well,
that's absolutely false.
No one cares about our personal sleeping
There we
schedule.
go. They care about mine. They care about mine. But go ahead.
All right, not mine. Let's get into it. If Naptown was hoping to see King James in the flesh last night, they would, except it wouldn't be on the court. LeBron sat during the Cavs-Pacers game. Now, this was Cleveland's second game in a back-to-back. Friday, they played Detroit. So that's 3 games in 4 days. But after the Pistons games Friday, the Cavs have 4 days off until they face Portland Wednesday. So Cavs coach Ty Lue says the plan is to limit LeBron's minutes in January and February. Stephen A., are you okay with LeBron sitting on the back end of back-to-back games here when he has multiple days off coming up?
No, I'm not as technical as that.
Okay.
I have a problem with LeBron James sitting. I'm not paying attention to the back-to-back or anything like that. If you're healthy enough, if you could be out there cheering and what have you and traveling with your team, you should be out there playing. It's not that he doesn't deserve rest. Anybody deserves rest is LeBron James. But here's the point that I want to get to. I have a problem with any player sitting out on the road and you're healthy. Sitting out on the road, and especially when you're going up against somebody in an opposing conference, Max, that's where I get rubbed the wrong way. To me, I understand you want to serve your home fans, but if you're going to sit out in an NBA season, you have 41 nights a year for them to catch you. Chances are, I know that even at home, there are people, I mean, everybody can't afford these games all the time, and that might be only one game that you go to, whatever, but you have a far better chance of seeing your star players if you take into account home games as opposed to road games. If you're playing somebody within the same conference, you're visiting them twice, 3 times a year at the most. If you're playing somebody in an opposing conference, you're visiting them 1 time. You can't miss those games when you're a megastar in this game. It's just something that you simply cannot do. I'm not going to get on LeBron James or Tyronn Lue. Listen, this is not them. Popovich did it for years. He still does it. We all understand it. This is nothing to insult or you know, be upset about with LeBron James, who barely misses any games. I'm just one of those guys. I'm fixated on this reality. Road teams, when you go on the road, they rarely see you. And especially when it's the opposing conference. Those are games you should be, it can't be legislated, but those are games you should be doing everything in your power to make sure you play.
No problem with LeBron sitting down. And, the fans of the other team, to hell with them. You want LeBron James to even consider. So in Lou and LeBron's opinion, their chances are increased of winning a championship if LeBron rests a given day, right? Okay, that's their own equation, whether you agree with it or not. So you think that, in their opinion, they should at all in any way diminish their chance to win a championship to accommodate the ticket-buying fans of the other team? Who cares about them? This is called Popoviching when a coach does it. I think it should be called LeBroning when a player does it. Part of the way LeBron has been able to cope with his physical decline, which I believe he's been in the last couple of years. Of course, when you're coming from the highest peak, you're still physically better than everyone else, even on your way down the mountain. But the way he's been able to level that decline off and stay at the kind of altitude he's playing is by realizing he matured and realized the regular season's a marathon. Pace yourself. Take some days off. Do the right thing so that when the playoffs roll around, you got enough gas in your tank to get over the hump, which is what just happened. If anyone has the equity to do this, it's LeBron James. And in terms of the hometown fans, even if he misses games at home, that's on the road. So what? They're rooting for their team.
Right.
Even the hometown fans, make this deal with the hometown fans. Increase your chance to win a championship, but you know what? You bought a ticket and you didn't get to see LeBron live. They'd all take that deal.
Here's your nightmare. Your nightmare is the man sitting across from you who's been your friend for years, who's been your former compatriot at ESPN New York, who knows you quite well, Max Kellerman, and knows what a capitalist you are. So I just want to make sure, that's right, I just want to make sure I'm clear, because you're talking to the American public here. The American public is watching, Max Kellerman.
I'm a man of the people.
I know that the election is over and we all know you lost that debate. But the point that I'm trying to make to you, Max Kellerman, is this. I must ask this question.
Rigged.
Are you sitting before a nationally televised audience and looking into the camera and telling the American people that you don't give a damn about how they feel? You don't give a damn about them being the paying customer? It does not matter to you? Is that what you're saying? I just want to be clear.
Excuse me. I don't give a damn. It doesn't matter to me. How's that?
Wow.
Is that clear enough?
Wow. Okay, that's fine. Now let's get back to this. You know what? I'm an old school kind of guy. I think about a Michael Jordan. I think about the Magic Johnsons. I think about Bird before that back injury really kicked in. Stars, Isaiah Thomas included, and others, they actually had and felt a sincere, genuine, inherent obligation. Kobe was that way as well. They felt a sincere, inherent obligation to go out there and to give the fans what they wanted to see. In no way am I implying that LeBron hasn't done that. LeBron missed a grand total of like 16 games in 4 years during his years in Miami. The guy, I'm not questioning LeBron.
He entered Wednesday's game 6 in the league in playing time.
6 in the league in playing time, averaging 37 minutes a game. Listen, I'm not questioning him. We're using him to touch on a bigger picture, Max. And the bigger picture to me is this. All I'm saying is if you're going to sit down, and I have no problem with sit down for rest and all of that stuff, I understand it, but can't you do it at home where you have 41 games a year as opposed? Listen, I forgot which guy it was, but I remember they were playing in Utah, and I forgot which team it was or whatever. You didn't play in Utah. You're an Eastern Conference team. They're not going to see you.
Yeah, but he cares more about the Cavs.
I want to address that.
That's what I'm saying. That's my biggest thing.
Let's take Michael Jordan out of this because he was a cyborg.
Well, what about Karl Malone? What about John Stockton?
Malone also was fit, but most of the other stars of yesteryear were not playing. There is much more exertion in the NBA now, physically, than there used to be. Off-season training regimens, playing defense every night on every guy. You can even talk to the old-school coaches, Pat Riley, all those guys. And they'll tell you, back in the day, it's who were you going to guard that night? Today, it's you got to guard everybody. It's a more sophisticated, higher, faster-paced game.
Wait a minute.
One, two.
Hold on. Let me stay with that point. Let me stay with your point. Max Kellerman, whether it's boxing or anything else, you repeatedly and religiously defer to history. I am saying to you from an historical perspective, do you know of any star in history who sat down games and said, you know, I just needed to rest today?
LeBron is innovating in that case. Okay. And by the way,
this is a tough one.
Finally, you said, I just want to say this.
This really is a tough one.
You said that guys like Kobe never felt a sincere obligation to play for the fans. LeBron James feels a sincere obligation to win championships for the fans of the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's his obligation.
I understand and I appreciate that point. All I'm saying is because you know you're going to be in the playoffs, that's even more additional games those local fans get to see you. The people on the road don't. My issue is the road. That's it.
I understand both arguments in this one. LeBron, though, trying to make his 7th straight trip to the finals. But we want you guys to get involved at home. Do you have a problem with LeBron sitting out versus the Pacers last night? We'll share those results and react a little bit later in the show. It doesn't get much bigger than LeBron James, but then there's his idol, the late, great Muhammad Ali. LeBron, an admirer of the boxing legend, both in and outside of the ring, jumped on the chance to support an exhibit honoring his life at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. James Charitable Foundation and his business partner, Maverick Carter, are donating $2.5 million to the new exhibit. Stephen A., can LeBron ever be bigger than Muhammad Ali?
Never. I want to be very, very clear about that. Never, no way on earth. And that is in no way disrespectful to LeBron. And I want to make sure everybody understands that we're asking that question because we hear a lot of people bringing that question up. This is not to denigrate or insult LeBron in any way. LeBron is phenomenal, not just as a player, but in terms of his mission, his charities, you know, what the conscientious individual that he is, donating $2.5 million to this cause, you know, putting kids, guaranteeing scholarships to the University of Akron. You know, this guy is going to ultimately empower by educating thousands upon thousands of local youth. And Lord knows what he's doing nationally. So this guy is an iconic figure, and he deserves our respect and appreciation. But Muhammad Ali, civil rights era, what he meant to us as black people, and I know it's not just black people whose lives that he touched, but make no mistake about it, in our opinion, there's a lot of lives that he touched later. He touched us immediately. He basically reminded black people that we were special, that we were a great people, that we should not in any way accept being denigrated, that we deserve human and civil rights just like anybody else, that we are black, that we are beautiful, and we have a reason to be proud of ourselves. When you consider the history of this country and the way black folks have been affected by the insidious behavior on a part of America from an historical perspective, for him to do what he did for us, being a member of the Nation of Islam, speaking up the way that he did, taking on all comers, including the federal government, and ultimately winning this, and suffered through the process. A lot of times we talk about sacrifices folks need to make, but more often than not, Max, we find ourselves talking about the sacrifices folks need to make because they don't necessarily do things that are uncomfortable. Muhammad Ali, that can never be said about him. He's the greatest of all time.
LeBron James is doing great things, and he should be commended for it. And he's one of the great athletes in the history of this country. He will never be as big as Muhammad Ali, and he probably knows that.
He does.
Muhammad Ali is the greatest, not only because he was the greatest heavyweight who ever lived in the ring. Like, he had to do that. He actually had to go out and beat Sonny Liston and Joe Frazier and George Foreman and all those guys. In the greatest era ever for heavyweights, he actually had to beat all those guys. He had to be better than them, or he would not be remembered the way he is today. But in addition to that, he stood up for what he believed in. There was a scene in the Will Smith, the Michael Mann movie, The Greatest.
Ali?
The Ali movie. Or the Ali, I guess it's called.
Yep.
Where and this is based on something that happened. It's a true story. Ali is running in Zaire, in Kinshasa, Zaire, through the alley, and he comes across a mural of him crushing a warplane, as like a giant crushing a warplane, and he realized at that moment, this is bigger than him. He's affected the entire world. And so he had to beat George Foreman, who no one could beat. And he realized it's not just about him beating Foreman. He had to draw strength from all oppressed peoples all over the world because he was their champion. Now there's more media. Right. There's more media now. And so maybe LeBron James can make more different impressions in people's minds. But in terms of the space that an athlete occupies in people's minds around the world, it will never be close. Muhammad Ali was arguably the most famous man in the world, including like Nixon and the Pope back then. And based on what he represented, I can't imagine another athlete ever being as big as Ali.
Muhammad Ali knew he would be vilified, knew he would be ostracized, knew he would be hated, and knew just as much that his financial stability would be severely compromised. I don't know of too many athletes. I don't think I know of any athlete in this day and age who will do that. I even had somebody ignorant enough to tell me that Colin Kaepernick would do that. I said, do you mean the same Colin Kaepernick that's making $12 million and the same Colin Kaepernick that didn't want to go to Denver because they couldn't work out about $400,000 to $500,000 that he would lose out on if he went there? Yeah. You mean that Colin Kaepernick? Shut the hell up.
Muhammad Ali wasn't worried about his brand or personal gain. It was the cause and it was the people.
Let's stop that nonsense.
People understand even the impact it had when then Cassius Clay, after upsetting Sonny Liston, which is impossible to do, turns to the camera and says, I'm not Cassius Clay anymore. That's my slave name. My name is Muhammad Ali. Nowadays, an athlete changes whatever, no big deal. Back then, that alone sent shockwaves around the entire globe.
And as an aside, it's important to point this out. One of the reasons that Howard Cosell was so great was because he was the first to say, you're a grown man. You have the right to be called by whatever name you want.
Back then, if someone on TV
right.
stated the obvious, it made waves around the world because people were in a state of...
well, nobody else would do it before Cosell did it. Remember
like
that.
A butterfly, sting like a bee. I also want to mention that Michael Jordan donated $5 million, Magic Johnson and his wife $1 million, also to this new exhibit.
Of course, if LeBron donates 2.5, Jordan donated 5.
It is what it is.
Game up, LeBron.
Coming up.